Hello and welcome to BeamNG Drive. I'm davidinark. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a look at scenes from the latest trailer from BeamNG Drive, remastered and improved levels that are scheduled to appear in the next update 0.17. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole trailer here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go shot by shot, basically, and we're going to talk about what those improvements are. So if you've not seen the trailer, I'll have a link to the trailer down in the description below. I'll also talk about a really cool review of the trailer done by another channel. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, we are going to jump in scene by scene and talk about what we see in each of those areas that the trailer focuses on. So let's just jump right into it. All right, first and foremost, they take us to East Coast, USA, and this is a shot of the remastered level. I don't know if you can tell or not, but the trees themselves, the trunks and that kind of stuff, they have all brand new textures. They look much fuller. There appears to be way more, so I'm hoping that means we get much more density without the sacrifice of frame rates, etc., etc. A couple other just little things to notice, that things like down in the lower right corner, you see some little purple flowers. You see the grass is much more dense than it was in or is currently in the game. If you're watching this and the update hasn't come out yet. Road textures look like they've completely been redone, and the shadowing appears to be much more I don't know if dynamic's the right word, but the shadowing also appears to be way more detailed. I mean, look here in the lower left corner, and you can see, the shadows based on the limbs, etc., there on this particular view of East Coast, USA. And then we have this scene, one of the most dramatic in East Coast, USA. This is, if you take the default starting zone and you hang a left, coming out of the little bus stop there. You hang a left and you go down and you're heading up around the corner. This is where right now on the right hand side, it's all trees. As you can see in this image, that is completely replaced by what appears to be some kind of a little harbor town, or just at least some kind of little coastal village or something along those lines. Very, very cool. Very excited to see what's going to be going on with that. But one of the things that, I don't know, seems to be overlooked by other reviews of the trailer that I've seen, you have telephone poles with telephone wires, right? So you've got electricity and telephone wires going down the map. And if I recall, I don't remember seeing this in an official BeamNG map. If I remember correctly, though, Bob Blunderton was playing around with this concept in some of the maps that he was doing. I believe that's correct. And please, somebody let me know down below if I'm wrong on that. But in the meantime, we check out this coastal town that's got little houses down there. It appears that maybe there's a covered bridge just right of center of the screen there. You can see the hillside off in the distance with the pine trees all around. Again, we see that the density, we see the detail, we see the shadowing. We also see individual little, I don't know, clovers or something over here on the left-hand side. And we see different rock and dirt patterns just kind of on the right, in the lower right corner there. So again, a huge update to what's going on with East Coast, USA. Nice to see that there's actually a little town along the coast, and I'm very curious to see what that yellow building is there, just kind of off center on the left, just a tad. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what that yellow building is going to be, but man, what a huge update here for at least this part of East Coast, USA. Now, this next scene in the trailer video showcases a fire tower where once there was just woods. And now you've got this really cool fire tower structure. And it's got a little dirt road that leads up to it off of the main highway there. And okay, I'm going to be negative Nelly here. This would be awesome if we had people in the game and, walking around, being able to walk up to the top of the tower and check it out. I mean, yes, I know you can free cam and you can go up there and you can look around, but in a game where people are not part of the game, I mean, this is neat and it's a very cool feature, but how much... I don't know. I'm curious to know how much gameplay is going to be involved with this particular asset, considering we don't have actual people in the game to, go up and down the steps. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. It's a very neat feature. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of some Far Cry type adventures there. But in the meantime, you can check out the rocks down below, and to me, this is where some of the focus comes in. Having the levels remastered includes things like the rock formations being much more realistic, much more detailed. Once again, we're seeing the trees and the grass and the dirt and the terrain, just all of that stuff working together. The way the mountains are flowing in the background, and I don't know, it's very, very cool. And again, I think the structure is neat. I'm just curious how it kind of fits into the overall scheme of the gameplay of BeamNG Drive, since you don't really have people, so we get to drive by it or drive up to it. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this gets fleshed out within the grand scope of BeamNG Drive. All right, this scene, and yes, we're still on East Coast USA. This is they spend a lot of time on East Coast USA. But this one is a remastered waterfall. You can see just how much more natural that waterfall appears. The water coming down from the upper level down to the bottom, and then you have the misting and the spray, the water kind of... hopefully, or at least looks like maybe it may be interacting some with the rocks down below. I hope that's an actual thing. That's very, very cool. And then just off center near the bottom, you can actually see rocks under the water, and also across the river from there, you can actually see the formations under the water along the river. That is very, very cool. And the water, to me, has a much more realistic look to it. It has a different, it's got a different shade and a different clarity, for lack of a better word, along the edges of the water. And then as you get toward the middle of the river, the color starts to turn, because the water's, at least theoretically, the water's getting deeper. It's harder to see what's actually in the water. So I think that's going to be really cool. What I'm very interested to see is how the water reacts to the vehicles. Has that been remastered? Has that been updated? Is that going to change? One of the other cool things in the forefront, down in the lower left, you see some of the pine trees there, but you notice, I hope you notice anyway, you see there's one that looks like it may be dead. And so it's got really, really brown pine needles on there, and it's not full at all. In fact, it's just kind of the trunk sticking up through the other trees down in that little cluster. So I don't know, that's a very cool change from the game where it's just kind of, here's a tree. Now we actually have different ages of trees, or different states of the trees. Again, a lot of the stuff that we see is environmental in this remastered trailer, but just unbelievably, really, really cool stuff. This next scene, this one, I absolutely love this. This is the remastered makeover of the gas station there in East Coast USA. And we'll actually see another view from kind of the reverse angle here in a couple of scenes. I can't remember exactly when that shows back up again, but just taking a look here, you can see the, again, it's the little things. The guardrails have been changed, so there's been a lot of talk and question. Are the guardrails now going to, are they going to be, can you deform them when you crash into them? That remains to be seen, but the gas station is much more modern. It's way updated. sleek lines. You see the service station there back behind the gas station units. You see the buildings get a slight remastered makeover there over kind of toward the left. There's also another multi-windowed building, almost like a school or something, over on the right-hand side of the gas station, just kind of like right below where the sign is, over on the kind of over on the far right. You see that row of windows there, those double windows. Like I said, it almost looks like kind of a school over there. So very interested to see what that's about. And then again, we have the telephone poles with the lines, and we also have the power lines and telephone lines. And then we also have the little yellow flowers and sort of some white flowers there. Again, the grass is much more realistic and it's much more populated. We see different kinds of trees here. We've mostly been seeing pine trees, but here it looks like we may have slightly different varieties. It's a little hard to tell here kind of what's going on, but it appears to be a mix of trees anyway. So we've got different styles of trees, different types of trees. Again, over on the left, we can sort of halfway down, you can see where there's a couple of just light branches or dead, maybe that's dead limbs sticking out from a particular tree. So again, we're seeing that kind of I don't know, recurring theme where trees are not always just trees. So I don't know, really, really cool. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the gas station in, if not this revision, then future revisions for sure. Now, this is an overview from the trailer of a completely remastered, of the completely remastered main East Coast USA kind of downtown area. You see things like the crosswalks, the sidewalks, even the buildings themselves. The bricks have a much more natural brick color. We see, again, you've got the telephone poles. It appears that there may also be street lights, and that may just be me not seeing, I may be seeing light pole or telephone poles and seeing them as street lights or something, but I don't think so. If you look over on the left-hand side, you can see the shadows along the street of the actual telephone poles, but then on the far left, you see other poles sticking up like right by driveways, and they appear to be singular poles. So I'm assuming that those would be light poles. So it'll be interesting to see if they are light poles, first of all, and second of all, if they actually react to nighttime. When it gets night, do the driveways get street lights? I mean, how cool is that? I know it's the little things. It really is, but you just and again, road textures and notice down along the businesses, they're kind of in the center of the screen. When you look up the street, you see there are parking spaces. So we have parking spaces along the storefronts in addition to the main street, right, with the yellow line going down it. Again, we got the crosswalks. We see more detail of the rocks in the background where the bridge is. The bridge itself, at least from this angle, it doesn't appear that it got much of a remaster makeover. I'm sure maybe it's got some more detail to it. Maybe the metal looks more realistic. You really can't tell from this angle. But incredible stuff that they've got going on here in the game. Pretty much leaving the downtown area the same from what I can tell. It's just been updated, at least cosmetically. So I don't know, definitely looking forward to 0.17 and driving my car down this street and checking out what they have done to Main Street, East Coast, USA. Now here is a fun update. This is the logging area where in the game before, it was just kind of this, kind of one pull up little area. And, you kind of had the shed there that's sort of kind of in the upper right corner of the screenshot here. But you can see this has been completely changed. Now it appears that there is a dirt track running around. I mean, over on the left, you have a building that appears to have some wood ramps going in and coming out. Presumably you can race your vehicle through there. I love the just above that, you can see that there is some kind of equipment. It's bright yellow, so I'm not exactly sure from here what that's doing. It's some kind of a boom lift or a crane, or I don't really know what it's doing, but anyhow, but you can see the detail of the log piles where the logs are laid out. We've got more buildings in place, again, multiple types of trees, and you can see it, once again, as far as detail on the roads. Look at the dirt paths. The dirt paths themselves have been remastered, have been improved. You can actually see what the tracks through the dirt where presumably people have been racing around all over the place. But there's also things like again, let's see, if you look at the building where the ramp is coming out over on the left hand side, just beyond that to the right, there's like a little, it looks like a portable light unit. There's also one just off of center near the bottom on the right hand side, and then kind of about halfway down over on the right hand side you see another of these kind of portable light units. So we're getting some really cool different assets in the game. It'll be very interesting to see what those folks who are modders, what they end up doing with a lot of these assets as they redesign and remaster their own levels, but also just to see how many of these assets are going to be available for us to just simply place as props in the game. I'm looking forward to that. I'm very interested to see how much of the new additions that we have to the game do we as end users, as players, users of this driving simulation, how many of these things do we get to actually just get a hold of and be able to put them into our own little self-made scenarios, or just sticking them on the map as props. So looking forward to hopefully being able to play around with that some. But man, this logging camp here has really been beefed up. I mean, look at like even the way the roofs have changed, right? They've all got these kind of weathering effects on the roofs. I mean, it's really incredible what these guys have done in terms of amping up the graphics from where they have been. So kudos for sure, but we're not even close to done yet. We're still in East Coast USA. Let's get rolling, man. Okay, so here is the reverse angle of the gas station, and I'm pretty sure it's the same gas station where we were looking before. And so here we actually see that there's a different building on this side of, or the other side of the gas station. It appears that maybe there are some garages there. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle exactly what's going on back there, but definitely a modern upgrade to the gas station. One of the things that I enjoy that's no longer there. I mean, I enjoy the fact it's no longer there, is that crazy weird ditch that was in front of the gas station. That's been filled in, as it were, and replaced. In fact, it looks like almost dead center of this screenshot, it almost looks like maybe there's a manhole right there, kind of in that where that little island it rounds about. I don't know. It almost looks like there might be a manhole there. So that's something that I really hadn't paid attention to until just now. So I'm curious to see if that's something that's going to appear in various streets as we look at additional maps, but also once 0.17 comes out. Is that something that's going to be part of the street assets, that you're going to have a section where there's manhole, or maybe even that's something that's a separate piece that you can just place down, a manhole wherever you want one. I don't know. How long can I talk about manholes, right? I don't know. Anyway, it's just, again, it's those little things. The display itself for the gas station has also been updated and changed. So I'm kind of curious what's going to go on with that. I mean, right now there's kind of a white square and a black square up there. I don't know if those are going to be like displays? Are they going to have rotating images in there? Are they going to be, I don't know. I'm very curious to see. Or is that just like, is that the brand colors for the new gas station? Just kind of this black and white square. I don't know. It seems to me like there's going to be something there. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me to leave that kind of as a black and white square. But then again, you know, a lot of things don't make sense to me. We just roll with them. But anyhow, there you go. As far as the bus stop goes, I mean, I guess it probably got some kind of an update, maybe some more detail on the pipes, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't know that they've really got that much of a change. I don't really pay that much attention to the bus stops. So those of you watching now, you may be like, oh, yeah, dude, no, this is what, you know, look at that. And by all means, let me know down in the comments for sure. But again, the road itself, the texturing on the road definitely has an upgrade. That's definitely been updated. It looks way better than it has. I mean, it didn't look bad before, but I mean, that is just night and day, really, between the two. It's starting to look very, very realistic. So awesome stuff there in terms of the area in front of that gas station. And then we have this interesting little bit. In the original game, this is actually just kind of a rocked off area. And in the remastered trailer, they've opened this up to where, you know, it's a little stream that's coming down. It's got rocks in here. It makes me wonder if this is going to be a new climbing area, maybe. You know, you can bust out your roamer or your hopper and you know, do some four-wheeling and do some rock climbing. I don't know, very, very interesting. But again, as part of the environmental aspects, this tree right here in the front really shows off some of the detail, some of the updates that they've done to the texturing of the tree itself. This one also happens to be one of those where it doesn't have the pine needles. It's just got the branches, you know, kind of like a dying tree. But then immediately to the left near the bottom, you see this rock kind of sticking out in the stream there, and it appears to have some moss on it. And then next to that, we've got these kind of thick, almost fern-like growths coming out there. I mean, the changes that they've done to the environment itself are really, really cool. I cannot wait. I really can't wait for this update just to see this game with these brand new, with almost like brand new eyes. And I know I keep harping on this kind of thing, but the detail of the rocks, just where the splits are and where the shadows fall and where the sun hits certain aspects of it. I mean, it's just, it really is incredible. You know, over on the right-hand side especially, you can see, you know, where the sun is coming through, where there happens to be small little patches of sunlight hitting on the rock. Very cool stuff. So that, of course, then begs the question, are you going to, if you look up, are you going, you know, through the trees? Are we going to have some of that kind of godlight effect where, you know, you see the rays of the sun coming through? That would be awesome. No idea if that's a thing, but that would be very, very cool. But even if that's not in the game at this point, the updates that they're making just environmentally already are unbelievable. So, so cool. And then finally, 20 minutes later, we get to the final scene of the East Coast USA remastered trailer. You've got the truck coming up the hill. And this scene does not last very long at all. It is a quick scene. The truck comes up, it fades to black, and that's pretty much it. So grabbing this screenshot, we see things like in the forefront, once again, we have the shadow with the different, I mean, look where the light and shadows are compared to where the leaves of the tree that you can't even see, you still have a pretty good idea. That is a nice full tree. I'm just saying. Then along the street there over on the right-hand side, kind of, well, starting from right and moving towards center, we have kind of these yellow and white, what are those, daisies it looks like. And actually, all the way on the far right, you got some little purple violets or something, and then you have some yellow flowers, and you have to forgive me, I don't know the name of flowers, man, but you know, we've got some purple and yellow and white, and then some yellow, and then some more purple, and so, you know, and all through the map, all the way down along the side of the road, you have all these little wildflowers growing, and then of course that leads your eye to the different rock formations along the coast. You see the beaches reaching out into the water. You'll notice that, at least to me, it looks like it's much more organic, dynamic, where the beaches, it's not like a cut and dry line between the water and the sand. It's very, like I said, organic, dynamic, whatever word you want to use, but it appears, at least from here, to be way more natural, in terms of, sometimes the water's going to lap up and sometimes, it's not. I think we can sort of see some of that transparency and coloration effect along the coast. Even from here, in some of those places along the sand, along those sandbars, you can still see some of the sand under the water. And then as we move out to the right away from that, it gets to be a darker blue, as the ocean or the water, well, I don't know if that's an ocean, whatever that body of water is, as that gets deeper. So very, very cool stuff in terms of what's going on with East Coast USA. And so next we move over to the Hirochi Raceway. All right, up next we are greeted with the Welcome to Hirochi Raceway screen here. And there are a lot of differences between the current raceway, just in general, let alone at this particular place, compared to what the remastered version is. I mean, even, starting with the very smallest things, the red and white curve markers with the green lead-ins and lead-outs. Those have been completely revamped, updated. And then just looking at this particular scene, we see a nice shot of one of those portable light fixtures that we talked about in the logging area, and then behind that we've got another one of those boom scissor lift things with what I'm assuming is a cameraman probably up on top of there. So that'll be interesting to see what that looks like when you're driving there, racing through there. You see the Hirochi Raceway kind of Hollywood sign there as well. That's pretty cool. Once again, you look at trees, you look at rocks, that kind of stuff. But on this particular screenshot in general, we also have, it's there, so we're going to talk about it. We have the porta potties in place, and from here they seem to be relatively detailed. I guess we'll find out when the actual release is done. But I think it's very cool that they've included things that make this as realistic as as they can. It also appears that kind of just below the raceway sign, it appears that maybe those are kind of those little, like pavilion cover type things. I don't know what you call them, but they're little pop-up tent things, to grab some quick shade. I'm assuming that's what that is. I don't know that for a fact, obviously, but I don't know. That's what it looks like to me anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what that is when we come in. We notice we have different guardrails here than we've seen on East Coast USA. These, to me, appear to be a lot like the ones that are currently in the game in the 0.16. These would be much sturdier, so I would imagine that if guardrails are destructible in 0.17, that these would be like not as destructible. And again, I have no idea. I don't get to know anything. I'm not a beta tester or anything like that. This is just going on my gut feeling based on what we're seeing here, and frankly kind of sort of things I'm hoping for, wishing to see in the game at some point. So anyway, that is the intro to Hirochi Raceway. And then here we get a completely revamped, I mean, you talk about, this is not just remastered, this is actually completely edited section here of the Hirochi Raceway. In the current version, basically you have the curve, that main curve that's kind of snaking its way from, as we're kind of talking about this, from the lower right as it snakes up across the center and then toward the left and then back again to the right, and then it snakes, kind of S's its way out into the upper left corner. Everything in the middle has been completely changed, edited, updated, added, you name it. Oh my gosh. and so let's just, I don't know. It's so hard to pick a place to start. I see now. Well, I'll tell you what, let me start in the lower right corner where we have these green tires. You'll notice that as your eye moves from right over towards center and we jump up to just above that to the left, we have another set of tires. And you notice that those are white and green tires. So interesting that they have tires that have different colors. I'm not quite sure what that represents. And that may be a racing thing. So if it is, forgive me and feel free to explain down in the comments below. But then we see just right of center, there's one of those red pup cover things. So I'm going to assume that my thoughts on the previous scene are confirmed in that that's what that was, that was a little pop-up, pavilion tent cover thing. And then almost dead center, a little above dead center, we have a couple of those porta potties hanging out there. And then just above those, we see that, portable light fixture there. Over on the right-hand side, we have the red and white building, I believe, is like the race tower. I'm not sure in this scene, you can't really tell what the big black T-looking thing is over all the way on the right-hand side, but we will see what that is in a minute. Well, I say a minute. In a few scenes, you'll get to see exactly what that is. So getting back to this, though, just amazing different types of fencing that's being showcased here. Again, you can see, somewhere there are, massive amounts of trees, and then in other places there's not, and it's just green grassy field. Even if we look kind of just off of center a little bit and up a little, you see there's this little patch of grass in the curve, and you see the lines, like the mow marks of the lines for that grass. It's little details like that make all the difference in the world. And then we have these ads placed across the front here on the ground. That'll be interesting to see kind of how that plant pans out. Again, I don't know anything about racing, so I don't know what those are supposed to represent. I don't know, is that where, like, if you are the Tasty Cola racer, that's where you park? I have no idea, man. I have no idea how this works. But anyhow, when we have an updated Grip All advertisement there on the right-hand side, with notice that there's a little grass growing up around the bottom, which you definitely see around billboards in the USA for sure. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I'm assuming that happens in other places as well, but still, very cool. Now, here is a stretch of road. This is still on the Hirochi Raceway, and I'll be honest, I have no idea where this is on the track. In the current version, 0.16, this is lined on both sides with trees everywhere. So I don't know if this is like when you come off the starting line, and if you were to take a right and go up that way on the current map, that's where this is. I don't know. I'm not sure, but because this is completely changed. I mean, you have the grass growing up along the fence line. Once again, we see at least two different types of fence. We've got kind of a barbed wire fence on the right, and we've got a wooden fence over on the left. We've got this really cool old barn looking thing over here on the right hand side. We have, I'm assuming those are flowers in the field. I can't really tell. I'm assuming those aren't animals, but then again, you never know. Maybe they're animals. I have no idea. But I love things like the cracks in the road, in the tarmac are very cool. Again, we have the telephone lines with the telephone poles, but notice that we also have the shadows that go along with those racing along the road. So you talk about a completely, edited, remastered level. The detail that they've put into just revamping things and really upping the game of what it's going to look like and what it will look like. It's just absolutely incredible. Such a very cool scene. The mountains in the background. And again, I can't get over how different this is from in-game. It's a completely developed area where once it was just trees. Well, welcome to the world, I guess, right? All right, here we go with an area that was completely empty, devoid of anything in the current map, and you can feel free to go find this area it's not hard. You can see this is, you see the walkway over on the right-hand side that goes above the track. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's near the starting, or maybe that's the backside. I don't know. Anyway, we have a giant figure 8 racetrack here at the Hirochi Raceway, and one of the really cool things that it appears anyway in the middle of this figure 8, it's not just a figure 8. We actually have ramps with a platform in the middle. I am envisioning all kinds of situations where, you're racing cars around and they are crashing into each other in the air. This is when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure it was Hot Wheels had this thing called Crisscross Crash, where you got cars going around in a figure 8 and they eventually crashed in the middle. That's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing Crisscross Crash. I totally see that happening on this map now. Oh my gosh. And then we have other things. Once again, we have several of these, like in the lower left corner, these independent little generator light fixtures. Again, much like the street lights that we saw in East Coast USA, I'm very curious to see when you set the map to night, do these automatically kick on? Because that would be very, very cool. And then we have the tents are over here on the left-hand side. They look like maybe they've been updated a little bit, just not a lot. I mean, there wasn't a lot to do with them to start with, but just kind of make them a little more realistic, give them a little personality, that kind of thing. Looking for other differences. Looks like over on the right-hand side, just above the green walkway, we have another one of those boom arm machines. Again, most likely with a cameraman, positioned up there, I'm assuming. I don't know what these green posts are in the grass, and that could be an optical illusion. It could be like whatever that is. That's not really what it is. It's just the way this screenshot is taken that it looks like that's what those are, some kind of green posts, or I don't know what that is. So that's going to be interesting to see what those turn out to be once the map is released. But just so cool. Again, we have telephone poles going along the fence line. And I'm not sure if this one down in front is that a telephone? Yeah, it's got to be a telephone pole. The shadows are showing telephone lines, even though you can't quite see them in the screenshot itself. So, man, just it blows me away how much they have updated the graphics of the game. Okay, so I told you before we would learn what the big giant, that black T was, and here you can see it. It's just above the center line horizontally and just left of the center line vertically, and it's a lap counter with times. So I'm very curious to know if that is something that's coming up in 0.17. Are we going to have actual race scenarios with trackable laps in the game on the screen? Oh, that would be awesome. I'm assuming at some point in the game, just because it's BeamNG and a lot of folks have been asking for some kind of a race type AI. By them showcasing this specifically in this remastered update really, really makes you wonder if we are going to finally have easy to create races in BeamNG. That would be phenomenal right there. Other details, we have the walkway that goes across there. You see more of the racing tower. And much like the fire tower, I think this is a really cool feature. But when you don't have people in the game, where you can't, just be a character and walk up into it and check it out. Yes, again, we can free cam, but it's not the same experience. I don't know. I mean, it's a neat detail, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the scheme of BeamNG overall. In the forefront, I think it's really, really cool. On this post here, we have those kind of stretchy flags that you see along streets, all over the place these days, with the Hirochi logo on there. I'm curious to know if it has if it's affected by weather. That is, if we put in some stronger winds, or we have wind gusts, will that kind of, push against its supports? I don't know. That'd be interesting. But just below that, notice that on the pole there are speakers. So we've got, announcement speakers. I'm sure they don't do anything, but aesthetically, they add so much more to the game. Very, very cool. And then the seats in the grandstand also have received some updates. You can see that the cement pathways, where the people sit, they're kind of worn. Got some really cool weathering effects and aging effects. And then the seats themselves look like they got an update. So just a general overall, remastering of the game. I mean, heck, even look at the overhang of the grandstand in your upper right corner. Look at the weathering that's on that front panel there. Just unbelievably cool. And then another thing that is not quite as obvious, but the starting marks are all differently placed than they were or are in the current version. In the current version, they are closer together, and they're also not as they're closer together. How do I want to say this? Like toward the front of, toward the starting line. But also, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're also closer together crossways. There's not, these appear to be perfectly off-centered in the middle of each pair. So, for example, over on the left, you have, pole position 1 and 3, and 2 is evenly offset between. And then between 3 and 5, 4 is evenly offset over on the right-hand side. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think it's quite laid out that way in the current version. It may be, I could be wrong, but they are definitely spread out more in this version for sure. All right, this next scene is showcasing, at least I think, primarily the dirt track that is kind of running through the woods there in the middle of the map. By the same token, though, this area here is completely revamped from the current map. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I mean, you see what's there. We've seen so many of the changes and the updates, and so this is just another. Again, I think they're showcasing primarily that whatever's going on with the dirt track that's kind of right there going through the woods. And then we get this really, really brief look at what appear to be some culverts that got washed away down through a riverbed or something. I have no idea what's going on here, but in the trailer, it starts at this particular place and then kind of pans over to the right, just kind of, I don't know, showcasing, I guess, some more of the detailed changes that they're making. I don't know. I'm very curious to know exactly what these culverts are and what they're doing here and why they're in the game. I don't know. I'm looking forward to exploring and seeing what that's all about. Your guess is good as mine. And this here is the next scene. I'm not exactly sure how it's, or if it's tied to the previous scene, but it's the next scene in the trailer. And you can see it looks like, most likely, it's an old riverbed or something along those lines, or maybe just a dirt track where the rocks have all fallen off the mountain. I don't know, but you can definitely see some tracks, some tire marks, and tire trails going through here. So again, could very well be another area where they want you to hop into a 4x4 and do some rock climbing. So definitely appealing to the off-road folks in a large portion of the map, which I think is really cool that, we're talking about Hirochi Raceway. We're still on the Hirochi Raceway map, at least according to the trailer. And so you have these areas that aren't just, tarmac racing around. We have these other cool areas to explore as well. And here we go with another shot of part of the raceway here. This is kind of through that sort of stretched out chicane in the Hirochi Raceway. Again, a lot of the same stuff that we've seen in terms of showcasing different patches of grass, the curve markers, We've got the trees, and again, one of those standalone light fixtures, etc. Just showing off, once again, a remastered section of the raceway track. And then they show this. This is another quick cutaway. But what's really cool about this is it actually shows a couple of things that are worth talking about. One, we see the updated gas station over on the kind of upper left section of the map there. And then we see where the road kind of tees in, and that appears to be some kind of, like a guard gate, a toll booth, something. And it's a little hard to see, but there are a couple of what appear to be a couple of gates that are in the what I would call the open position, right? Because traffic can go through there. So I'm curious, A, is it possible that the gates open and close? And B, exactly what does that look like? What does that entail? Is that going to be something that's going to be, implemented in the future? Is it just a set piece to make it look cool? Kind of as an entrance and exit from the main racing area? I don't know. I'm very interested to see more about that little guard tower. And then just to the right of it, we see another one of those boom arm lifts. And again, I'm assuming there's a cameraman up there. So we're going to see those placed throughout the track. What I think would be really cool is if those were cameras you can actually switch to when you're playing the game, because that would be very cool. That'd be a fun way to be able to switch between different views while you are running around the track, whether or not there's racing in it. Hey, that's, whatever as far as a racing AI goes. But even if you could just, hit the camera on a particular map and as you cycle through cameras, those end up being active cameras that kind of watch you as you drive by. I think that would be a very, very cool feature. And then to wrap up the Hirochi Raceway, we have a mega view. We just zoomed all the way out, and you can see how incredibly detailed this map has gotten, how expanded this map has gotten. I mean, oh my gosh. One of the things that Neological had said in his review or his overview of this, of the trailer, if you look kind of over right of center, there's kind of that tic-tac-toe board. If you follow that road that snakes up and around toward the upper right corner, it appears to go into a tunnel or something up there. As he pointed out, it would be very cool if you went through there and it would load like the next map, whether it was, West Coast USA or East Coast USA or whatever. That'd be neat if that ends up being a feature where you can drive between maps, almost like teleporting. That'd be very, very cool. As I'm looking at this, it appears that on that same road, if we come back down, that's where that little house is. That we were just looking at, the little guard shack where that tees off there, because that's definitely the gas station, and that little white dot, that's got to be that guard station that we saw. So that's very cool. Yeah, a little guard station before you can get into the kind of behind the scenes, the pit area of the raceway itself. Yeah, that is very cool. You see the figure 8 over on the left hand side, and really look how big, potentially huge this track is, depending on where you want to go. So I can see a whole lot of like Grand Prix type racing in addition to the kind of standard track racing. I don't know, going to be very interesting, going to be very cool to see what the modders come up with in terms of creating scenarios for the 0.17 maps. That's going to be cool. All right, and the final map of the trailer is the Derby map. I know the trailer is like a minute long. This is going to be an hour's explanation of a minute-long trailer. But this is completely remastered Derby level. They've widened the dirt track here on this particular Derby section. The grass is definitely, more detailed. It's got dirt patches and flowers, and once again, the remastered version, it's just essentially they updated all the graphics across the board. So everything from, the dirt tracks that are on the map to what the houses look like to the cement barriers. I mean, everything got a facelift. And so the next part of this showcase is what's going on inside the Derby map. So we'll just move over to the next map. So here we see another area of the Derby map. And if you're not familiar with the Derby map, it actually has multiple areas where you can do demo derbies. This one features a whole lot of water and mud, if I'm not mistaken, and that's what all that is, kind of in the middle there. Again, I've mentioned this, especially over on the wood, the lumber yard. If you look at the roof here, and also if you look at the cement inside the building, it's all got really nice detailed weathering effects. I love how the exposed cross beams look like they're kind of rusted out. Overall, the buildings themselves they have a much richer look to the color. As I mentioned, earlier in the video, the brick looks more like brick. It's got a nice color. It's got some really cool tones and hues, neat stuff going on there. Just with the structural elements in the game itself, as they showcase what's happening or going to happen in 0.17. And here we go with another one of the areas on the Derby map, and this is the one where everybody's inside these cement barriers. And again, the entire map has a facelift. So from the ground to the mud patches to the water to the buildings, just everything has an update. I mean, crud, look at the bleachers. They look like they have old weathered wood for the seats. Just, again, adding to the realism of the game. I like the little wire guardrail, or I guess technically those wouldn't be wires. Those are probably metal tubes. But anyway, over in the lower right corner of the grandstand, as it were. I mean, this is just seats for a demo derby. But, really cool things that are going on with the game in terms of getting it remastered, updating the look and the feel. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how things play in 0.17 versus what we've all kind of been accustomed to for a long, long time now. Now, here we have, and actually we've got a completely newly developed area. This is some kind of a dirt rally track. You see the road coming from the lower left, heading up towards center. It actually crosses what appears to be a mixture of pavement and dirt. Not quite sure what's going on there, but then it crosses over up toward the upper right, and then you see that really high banked curve that comes back around to the left toward the upper left. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. What's also interesting about this particular place is, if you notice from the lower left as it comes up towards the center where it hits that pavement, you'll see that, I mean, there's a pretty significant ditch that goes pretty much from the center of this screenshot down to the lower right. Man, if you're coming up there from the lower left and you just get off a little bit, man, you're done. That is not going to be a good day for you. I'm just going to throw that out there, okay? Captain Obvious here. By the same token, on the left side of that same strip, you can see where it looks like it's been kind of like built up, like that's not natural. And so, if you happen to dip your car off to the left side of that doesn't look particularly friendly either. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing where this track goes and just interacting with it, and getting AI chases and races, if we get races, whatever it is, along this brand new dirt track here on the Derby map. Very, very cool. Now, the next thing that BeamNG showcases is the remastering of the cement death pit, whatever, I can't remember what it's called. But essentially, it's a derby where all the cars are on that center platform, and they try to wreck each other either by throwing them off of the various edges or down into the center. But what they're really showcasing is the detail on the cement structure itself, the weathering on the cement structure, the detail on the pipes and the building, and everything basically on the right hand side. Again, is it super ultra modern? Okay, no, not necessarily, but it's also not 2002 graphics. So it's really, really great that they are spending as much time as they are spending, and they are, I'm referring to the BeamNG, devs and graphic artists, and I have no idea how many people they have on their team, but that those folks are putting in the effort to give a facelift to the game. It's much needed. Kudos to them, and that's fantastic. Okay, in one of the last scenes of the trailer, you have this scenario. You have this kind of flyby where it pans from or transitions from the current look of this particular derby arena into what you see here, and primarily what it appears to me what they're showcasing, especially. Are the structural elements. You see the corrugated metal up at the top of this particular screenshot. I mean, unbelievably detailed, unbelievably weathered. Then you have the metal cross beams that are supporting it. And then you have the cement edging of the doorway here. And again, you've got cracks and weathering. And then here it's showing off the updated brick formations. So I think a lot of this particular shot was to showcase those types of things. On the I don't know what you guys call them. We call them K-walls, but these cement barriers, they have these little, they got the hook loops, so that when they're being put in place in real life, that's where the crane, grabs a hold of them. I don't remember off the top of my head if the current version, that is 0.16, has those, has the detail of that on those particular barriers or not. But if not, then that is definitely a really cool, realistic addition that they've put in as part of the remastering. And again, you see the different weathering effects and the detail of the ground level and the buildings in the background and the trees. I mean, just everything being updated in this game. I'm really looking forward to 0.17. Have I said that a time or two? Probably a time or two. One more scene to go, and you don't want to miss this one. In the final scene of the trailer, we see these two cars flying up over that hill there and coming down around this bank. And again, we're still on the Derby map, and I believe this is the same place where we had seen that new dirt racing track come into play. And so we've got these cars now. I can't really tell if this is I can't remember the name of it, the Barstow, I don't know, whatever it's called, Animal Beast, whatever it is, or if this is a new car that just happens to have the pipes sticking out of the engine. I'd have to go back and look for sure, and I'm not doing that right now. You guys can feel free to share your thoughts on that. The reason why I bring that up is because it has been rumored that there's going to be a new car in 0.17. That it's a car that's been a long time coming, and the name of it escapes me, and I'm sure many of you know what the name of it is, and that's not necessarily important. What's important is that here we are seeing the folks at BeamNG continually adding to the base offering of vehicles in the game. So hopefully we will see a new car in 0.17. Looking forward to that for sure. All right, there you go. That is a complete and just utter breakdown of every scene in the 1 minute trailer. I think it was about a minute, something like that, from BeamNG Drive, the mastered and improved levels. Hope you enjoyed that. I know it was really long, but I don't know. I thought it was important to go through each of the scenes and just break them down for you. Got any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories? Feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. And I always say thank you guys. And I do. I thank every one of you collectively, but specifically you listening right here, right now. I'm talking specifically to you. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate the fact that you are taking time out of your day, whether you skip through the video, whether you watch the entire thing, either way. Thank you so much for, I don't know, just listening to this old man ramble about this really cool game. I appreciate it so much. I do want to also send a very special thank you to WarHeroesGaming and GamerGull for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to do that, you can do that through patreon.com/davidinark. Hey, and if you enjoyed this video and other videos like it, please subscribe. It helps me so much. And like the video, share it. You have no idea how, as a YouTuber, those little things help get the word out about our little channel. So anything you can do helps. If you're on Reddit, share your experience on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all the places everybody hangs out these days. If you share that, I appreciate it. Anyhow, again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time in BeamNG Drive. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I forgot to tell you guys. By the way, if you want to see, if you want to watch the trailer and get kind of a first impression, you got to go check out Neological. I'll have a link to his video down in the description below. I did a great job of watching the trailer and then kind of analyzing some of the things that he saw in some of the scenes. So you definitely want to go check out Neological's first look at the trailer for the remastered and improved levels to appear in 0.17. So thank you so much. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. I appreciate it. Go check out Neil's channel. Awesome BeamNG content, among other stuff. Very, very cool. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.